Karen Northington. I am Xana Kernodle's mother. This letter is to you, really. But it's for my daughter. Who was murdered by you.
Oh,
Today I stand before you. The man who was responsible for murdering my beautiful daughter, Xana Kernodle.
oh, terrible.
My daughter was beautiful both inside and out.
Oh,
She possessed
goodness.
love for those around her and had a light so bright it will live on forever in our hearts. She brought joy and laughter to her friends, her family, and anyone in her presence. Our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, now has her in his loving arms in heaven, where she can never be harmed ever again for eternity. Because of her, I came to know my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Because of her, many will come to Christ. It is Christ who lives in me that has given me the strength to forgive you.
Wow.
It was of no power of my own. In return, the Lord has filled me with joy, hope, and peace that surpasses all understanding. Jesus has allowed me to forgive you for murdering my daughter without you even being sorry
Good. Thank you, Roger.
or asking for this.
Just terrible.
This is only possible because he who lives in me is greater than any evil in this world. Or asking for this. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind.
Whew.
I do not fear you or even let you rent space in my head anymore.
Wow.
This forgiveness has released me from any and all evil you have inflicted on me and my family. It has allowed me to let our Lord deal with you. You have accepted a deal that will prevent you from receiving the death penalty. Nothing man can do to you can ever compare to the wrath of God. Inevitably, you will
Hi
stand
there,
before our
Symbiote.
Lord and will have to
There's
answer
Catherine.
to him over the sins you have committed.
Folks, it is torturous
Murdering our
listening to
children.
this, but we have to.
I pray you come to the end of yourself before that day. Whether you like it or not, heaven is for real and so is hell. The innocent life of Xana that you stole from myself and my family, and the destruction of this, and the destruction it has caused. I am washing my hands of you
Oh,
and turning you over to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, whom vengeance belongs to. In closing, I want to read a passage from the Bible, Ephesians 6, King James Version. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and then in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood,
terrible.
flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day. That ye may be able to stand in the evil day.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not going to share memories of Xana or any more of the goodness of her with you, because I do not want that to be in your head.
Wow. Folks, again, well, not again. Good afternoon. What you've been listening to, and I know some people have been watching, we're live right now. Those are the witness impact statements. Bryan Kohberger, Idaho, and I'm going to replay some of the very powerful ones, and then they're all powerful, but some more powerful than others. And talk a little bit about it, and talk about what's going on, and talking about one of the reasons why we talk about, and I focus on law and order, and how, few, if anything, matters if people are not safe. So there were some very powerful witness impact statements. And as much as I've heard some before, every time I've ever heard witness impact statements, you come away with something. And I want to touch on that. Now, right now, we are live on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. We're also live on our website, which is depetro.com. Now we're live on X and YouTube. And as I said, Facebook, X, YouTube, and then on the radio. So now one of the things is I do want to monitor if he was going to say anything, Kohberger. But it sure doesn't seem that way. And I'm going to go through some of the witness statements. But I also, so we're going to play some of the highlights. I had to change. We were initially going to have a guest on. I was also going to talk on Governor McKee and his plan to try to failed attempt to bring the WNBA. But if you've been watching or listening to any of the impact statements, it is just terrible, folks. With it, but it gives you an idea of how just one individual and the impact that life could have, and let alone these young people. And I want to touch on that. Her sister that got up, the sister that got up, wow, and just went after him. But it's also, to me, an opportunity to remind people that, as I started to mention, if you don't have law and order, if you don't have safety, if people are not safe, nothing else matters. And as I have stated many times, the number one priority to me of any elected official, the first thing that's most important is safety. So now I see people are saying there's some kind of a tapping sound. I'm hoping that it has disappeared. There should be no tapping. I don't know if it was the sound coming out of that I was using a little bit, but we'll stay on track here. Folks, thank you. Debbie's saying the sound is gone. This portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane, North Kingstown. Now, they right now have fantastic native corn is available, fresh vegetables, right off of Route 4. They have fresh vegetables, corn, fresh peaches. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They're a full-scale nursery. Stop in and see them. They're open 7 days a week, and you can look for them on Facebook. Now, I will have something going up on depetro.com about this Governor McKee effort to try to bring the WNBA, try to land the team. I'll save it for that. I'm going to write something about it. We'll post it on depetro.com. Brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, and they're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. So what I want to do is obviously talk about these witness impact statements with the Bryan Kohberger trial. I am monitoring right now. I think there was some talk, there was some discussion. Is it possible that he would address the court? And so we're going to dip in and out. But for those that have heard many of the statements, as I mentioned, it's also not, there's so many thoughts that go through. The father that said he made mistakes in his life, he looked forward. She kept him on track. He looked forward to their life together. This is someone who is he bared his soul that he had made some mistakes working through addictions, and his favorite thing to do is to take his daughter to a concert and go. I understand. I understand. So who cares? Well, the family would care. The family would care. I want to correct people. When people put "who cares," I think what they mean to say is that they don't care. Believe me, I felt the same way. I felt the same way of what possibly could he say that would, bring any meaning. But at the same time, it was very powerful. So I see, someone puts waste of time. I start to resent that. And I start to resent people that just start putting insults. Oh, okay. It's interference from the device. I see. Okay. That can be moved, as a matter of fact. That device. Thank you, Debbie. Debbie is so helpful. Folks, I want to caution people that they should be waste of time. It's there's only so much waste of time. If you've heard these families and how they have been impacted, it is brutal. And the sister to get up there and say, you had to catch my sister and her friend while they were sleeping. These people don't, thank you, Debbie. They don't get over something like that. So it's if this also wakes people up that, there are people that are saying that Brian Walsh, good, thank you, I'm glad to hear that Brian Walsh should be set free, even though he took the life of his wife, Anna Walsh, that somehow he should be set free. Brian Walsh brutally, in a calculated manner, took the life of Anna Walsh and then, disposed of her body and remains. And there are sick individuals out there saying that he should be set free because there was a state trooper that used some inappropriate language. So no, something like that. I initially felt that, but if you listen to some of the impact statements, and this is someone that just sits there with no emotion and took the lives, folks, as I've stated, nothing matters more than safety. And if you're the president, I think the president understands that, as the president is trying to secure the borders. I want to play some of the comments that were said by some of the family members, and it's tough to listen. I found that to be very, very impactful. When and maybe people that don't have children don't fully appreciate that. Maybe people that, for whatever reason, they just dismiss it, maybe because they're in Idaho. But these were precious lives, and the impact is that these people will never, move beyond it. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by Propane Plus. For all your heating and cooling, call them today, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. Now remember, they're always online at propaneplus.com. Residential or commercial, you just type in your zip code. It's Propane Plus. Give them a call today, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. For Propane Plus, it is wildly upsetting. And the horror they went through. And this was not, as we've talked about, this is one of those, I don't like to glamorize it either, because it comes off as just like a thrill kill. It comes off, this was not a robbery. This wasn't a domestic situation. This wasn't a fight. He wanted to prove, it's crazy it is, and we don't, like many of you, like you don't like to dwell on it, but at the same time, it can't be ignored. We have to know that evil is out there, that evil exists. And that's why, people like myself, you get angry when there are people in positions of power that don't take their position seriously, or they don't understand the nature of their position. I think the president does. I think President Trump does. That's one of the reasons for all the criticism and everything else. Hey, listen, he's trying to, at the very least, secure the border. And for those of you that watch Road Patrol, no one's going to tell me there hasn't been a chilling effect on crime and illegals with the amount of crime is down. Not having some of that has also, the Providence Police at least have been able to retain and attract more police officers, despite the efforts of those that try to dismiss, hi there, Chuck, the police. But I felt the same way. Like, what is all this talk and what is he going to offer? But the powerfulness of the statements of the families, it is just heartbreaking to hear. And especially that was struck by the father reading the last Father's Day card he received from his daughter. That meant something to him. Do you understand? There are people out there that don't take their, look at, let's just talk about that. The guy Mondavi wants to be the mayor of New York. He wants to open the prisons, defund the police. You have Governors McKee and Healy that allow dangerous criminals to continue to roam. They don't value human life. They don't value your life. They certainly wouldn't value my life. So, but these impact statements are just terrifying. And again, I come back to, I can't shake out of my head the fact that there are some individuals that are saying they want Brian Walsh released because there's a Massachusetts state trooper that used inappropriate language with his friends. That's what it's about. Do you understand how insane that is? Do you realize how ludicrous that is? Brian Walsh, they have him nailed dead to rights. And there are people out there saying he needs to be freed. He needs to be let go. Anna Walsh had those 3 beautiful little boys that she was going to move to Washington, D.C. with her. She married a bum of a husband. She realized it, and he was going to go to jail for art forgery. Federal prison, I believe. And she was like, whatever. Then I'm going to raise these 3 beautiful little, my sons with me in Washington, D.C. And he killed her for it. And I see these people, they're nuts. They're sick, making excuses. This is a little bit of a vent towards some of the cult people that are out there. But they put some of the comments, he probably did it. But because of, and what do they say? Because of Trooper Proctor, Brian Walsh should be set free. Do you understand? Anyone that would say that, you need serious mental health. There's something wrong with you. That's not, a normal person doesn't think that way. It's difficult when I think sometimes we're going to cover a story and then I feel like I'm working at like in an insane asylum because you're dealing with all these totally insane, crazed people. Brian Walsh, again, I pivot back to these witness impact statements, how it has robbed these families will never be the same. One person even got up and talked about what Kohberger did to his own family as he sits there, how they tell him off, how his DNA was found, how he wanted to see if he could commit this crime. He returned to the scene 5 hours later. They just became the victims of a total psychopath. So no, I don't have any mercy for that. And I believe, and I, by the way, felt the way a lot of people did, which is what good would it, we're not going to hear anything of value coming from him. Much like I said, there's no logical reason why someone commits an act like this. And again, at least for, I'm not making excuses, but someone like an O.J. Simpson, I mean, he had this tumultuous relationship with his ex-wife, and he went over there, and I think she walked out with a knife, and he snapped. And I'm in no way, I mean, he brutally killed Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. So there's that. You could also, all right, Karen Reed was intoxicated, put the car in reverse, backed up, fatally struck her boyfriend at the time, John O'Keefe, left him like a dead animal to die by the side of the road. But Kohberger, there was nothing. She didn't know these individuals. He didn't interact with them. There was no, as I said, there was no robbery. It's like an act of terrorism where there's nothing taken, gained, stolen other than their lives. But if you haven't heard some of the family members coming forward, it is very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Folks, this portion of the program, now when disaster strikes, remember, maybe when you have fire or flood, Serve Pro of Providence. They're fast, they're thorough, they're professional. Call Serve Pro of Providence, 401 941 5500. 401 941 5500. When disaster strikes, maybe suddenly a pipe gives way and you have a flood in your home or basement, or you have mold. Serve Pro of Providence, 401 941 5500. They're fast, they're professional, they're thorough. Remember, when disaster strikes, everything changes. You have a fire, you have a flood, you have mold, everything else goes on the back burner. Serve Pro Providence, they're available 24/7. Call them 401 941 5500. It is very, very powerful. And I found it takes your breath away at how powerful some of it is. I want to just try to dip in and see what's happening with this Bryan Kohberger hearing. Oh, he just said he's going to decline. Wow. He was given the opportunity to speak, and he's saying he declines. They're calling him a coward.
All right, let me start this morning
It's the judge of Idaho.
by acknowledging and thanking those that have come here today in support of their loved ones. And I appreciate your courage
I want to hear some of this.
and your strength.
This is the judge.
And I hope that you are able to move on as best as possible.
Yeah.
Thank counsel for the professionalism that they've exhibited throughout this case. It has been my great honor to preside in this case and to help bring, to the extent possible, some resolution and hopefully justice to this case.
He did have tears.
During the quiet morning hours of November 13, 2022,
Ah,
a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them.
ah,
4 of them.
God.
Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss.
Senseless act of evil.
No parent should ever have to bury their child.
No.
This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck filled with moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins.
Oh, God. Casket.
The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these people's children, siblings, grandchildren, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their soul, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. and it has been stolen from these parents.
Ah, wow. Says the judge.
None of us have experienced the loss these victims have in the unspeakable way that they have. And therefore, none of us can or should we question the way in which they have handled their loss. Whether that be in private mourning, removed as far as possible from this media circus, or in front of a camera demanding retribution with the loudest megaphone. I've listened intently to the stories and pain that have been shared today, with great awe at the courage and resilience of the surviving family members of those wonderful children. I've listened also to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about two kids simply being kids.
Terrible.
The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward,
Kevin.
I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these four young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak, but who carry the same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others, is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why. But upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency, and we give him power.
Good point.
The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave.
That's right.
Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth?
Right. Good point.
Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth?
No.
Of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed?
No.
Rather, I suspect the so-called reason would be dished out in enticing, self-serving, and aggrandizing, untruthful bits. Leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspect it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance. Because there is no reason for these crimes that could approach anything resembling rationality. No conceivable reason could make any sense. And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame.
Wow.
It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. I know there has been concern about him collaborating on books or movies or other media projects, and I truly hope that someone does not stoop to affording him this spotlight that he desires in the name of clicks, royalties, or profits.
They will.
While criminal behavioralists should study him away from the spotlight in an attempt to prevent other would-be killers from acting on their worst impulses, there should be no need for that to spill over into the public eye.
Good point.
The great Idaho jurist Edward Lodge was known for trying to find something positive about every person he ever sentenced.
Hmm.
And with over a half a century as a trial judge, that was a lot of people. This was often challenging, and I recall in one case he said that the best he could come up with was the defendant had good penmanship. Truth be told, I'm unable to come up with anything redeeming about Mr. Kohberger because his grotesque acts of evil have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. His actions have made him the worst of the worst.
Wow.
Even in pleading guilty, he's giving nothing hinting of remorse or redemption, nothing suggesting even a recognition or understanding, let alone regret for the pain that he has caused. And therefore, I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society.
Wow.
And accordingly, based upon his conduct and based upon the record before this court, recognizing the standards that govern this court's sentencing decisions as set forth in State v. Hill, I hereby sentence Mr. Kohberger as follows. On count 1, burglary, 10 years fixed.
All right. Well, we're going to leave it at that. I mean, I'll talk a little bit. I thought the judge, that's very, very powerful, folks. Again, it is just terrible. I think the judge summed it up very well, but we all know, first of all, I'm not convinced that he could do anything as far as there is the Son of Sam law, which prevents someone from earning money off of their crimes. So I'm not convinced, unless the money was to go to his family or something, but you have to believe, sad to say, but there's definitely people that are contacting him to try to get an interview and they're going to come up with some kind of a special. A lot of people might say Netflix. I think it might be something off from that, but do some kind of a special on it and then somehow have as depraved as it sounds, have his involvement in some way. This portion of the program, I'll continue to monitor in case anything else happens. But I think after that, you get the idea of why it was, to me, hearing these witness impact statements with the Bryan Kohberger case, to me, it emphasizes it was the right decision not to have the trial and then to put the families through it, and then just, it's today, he's sentenced, and then they don't have to go through it. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by Roofco, Rhode Island. Hey, how about a free estimate on a new roof? 401-868-7149. Do you have a leaky roof, or maybe you have a roof that has some wind damage? They'd be happy to provide a free estimate. Roofco, Rhode Island, 401-868-7149. They're licensed, they're insured. Leaky roof, missing lifted or curled shingles, granules in the gutter. Call 401-868-7149 for Roofco, Rhode Island, 401-868-7149. The judge also mentioned, and folks, this portion of our program, I also want to mention, it is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Remember, call Corey today, free estimate, 401-283-9815, 401-283-9815. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Have them epoxy your garage. It makes a huge difference, and it's not a major project. Epoxy garages and patios. They do decorative concrete flooring. They will resurface a pickleball court, tennis court, basketball court, sport court. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call today, free estimate, 401-283-9815. So they have taken a break with the Kohberger hearing that's going on out in Idaho. But what I was just mentioning, how, I think the judge in so many ways did have it right. There's nothing that's going to be gained from it. I like how the judge said, by all the people requesting that or demanding they wanted to hear from him, it doesn't, in fact, give him a certain sense of power. Now, I wanted to just dip back in because I see they are back in session, I believe. Okay, I see a picture, but I don't hear any audio. So I'll check another feed just to make sure that it is in, nope. Okay. Let me go in there. Nope. Certainly not that. Let me just see if there's anyone else that had it and where it may be is what I'm really getting at. So it could be, again, some of the family members that spoke, it's just absolutely gut-wrenching. Nope. Okay. Nothing seems to be happening. I'll just monitor just in case. Folks, it comes back to me, it does come back to quality of life, safety, protection. None of that matters. None of that matters if you don't have safety. I also want to come back to, this is the last time I'm going to mention it, at least this hour, but this notion that Brian Walsh, there were people out there saying he should be set free to teach the Massachusetts State Police a lesson. Do you understand that there's no logic in that? Do you understand what he's accused of doing? That he, like a psychopath, brutally took the life of his wife, Anna Walsh, in their home in Cohasset because basically she was ready to get divorced. He was supposed to go to federal prison. She wanted to move. They had 3 boys together, move them down with her to the DC area where she had a very successful career in commercial real estate. Do you understand? There are people saying he should be set free now because of a member of the Massachusetts State Police was texting some friends of his and he used inappropriate language. Does that make sense to you? I mean, it's so asinine. I have to call it out. Now, the Walsh trial is set to begin in late October, and it's actually going to be in Dedham as well. So I was out in front of the house in Cohasset when she was still missing before he was arrested. But the allegations are gruesome. By all accounts, the Cohasset police, the Massachusetts State Police, I think they even used the FBI for some of their surveillance, got involved. The case seems airtight. It's so gruesome that he seemingly took her life, and the Google searches for how to dispose of the body and, basically dismantling her body and then putting them in dumpsters. And then they, it's one of those stories you don't like to dwell on it because it's so gruesome. But again, what I come back to is who in their right mind would say that he should go free? That is, folks, if someone, if the police make a mistake in a report, picture if someone broke into your home and took the life of a family member, then you find out, oh no, they're going to let him go because they misspelled his last name. Like, what are you talking about? There's no, that's not justification. There's no logic in something like that. But that's why I believe our area of the country, you don't have leaders right now. We don't have leaders. I changed my mind. I am going to talk about the WNBA thing because right now, folks, this portion of our program, hey, remember Watson Materials? The largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. Call them today. Request a quote, 401-885-0600. 401-885-0600. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island, whether it's landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, decorative stone. Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. They're another one. I share their Facebook page. I do want to touch on last night for those that were watching Road Patrol. We have it up online. And Channel 12 did a story that crime is down in Providence. And it's certainly not due to the city council in Providence. But for those of you that watch Road Patrol, and we're active, I'm happy to see it. Like, for all the problems that the city has, the fact that their police force right now is as strong as it is, it speaks volumes, and you need that. This business of no cash bail, some of these experiments that people want to, put forward, it's not for the people. Like, who are we? No one asked the question, why would you want an illegal who is dangerous, who is distributing fentanyl? Why would you want that person loose in your community? And to me, it's more of what they really want is they're just anti-police. And for those that talk about, defund the police and blah, 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 and everything that goes along with that, it took a lot for the family members to get up today in that Bryan Kohberger hearing and, talk about the sister, Alvia, for her to go right at him. She was so brilliant. The family members were really remarkable. I want to play some of it.
So sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Detail what you were thinking and feeling. Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th?
Wow.
Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used a gift card? How do you find it enjoyable to stargaze with such a severe case of visual snow? Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words?
Oh, God.
Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning to the crime scene 5 hours later, or never, ever going back to Moscow, not even once, after stalking them there for months? If you were really smart, do you think you'd be here right now? What's it like needing this much attention just to feel real? You're terrified of being ordinary, aren't you? Do you feel anything at all? Or are you exactly what you always feared? Nothing.
Wow.
If you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? You see, I'm here today as me. But who are you? Let's try to take off your mask and see. You didn't create devastation. You revealed it in yourself. And that darkness you carry, that emptiness, you'll sit with it long after this is over. That is your sentence. And it was written on the wall long before you ever pled guilty. You didn't win. You just exposed yourself as the coward you are. You're a delusional, pathetic, hypochondriac loser who thought you were so much smarter than everybody else. Constantly scolding, turning your nose up to grammar mistakes, nitpicking and criticizing others. You wanted so badly to be different, to be special, to be better, to be deep, to be mysterious. You found yourself thinking you were better than everyone else, and you thought you could figure out the human psyche and see through it, all while tweaked out on heroin. Lurking in the shadows made you feel powerful because no one ever paid you any attention in the light.
That is, again, the sister
Some of these might be familiar.
really going after him, folks. You got to see some of the video. She also then mentions what would have happened if the sister had been awake when he did that. Boy, she describes and says that to Kohberger. There's someone else that pops into my mind when I hear all of that. Desperate for attention, thinking they're smarter than everybody. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by Arch Design Builders. Now remember, if you're thinking of redoing your kitchen or maybe your bathroom, call them. Let's set up the meeting. 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124. Arch Design Builders, whether it's kitchens, bathrooms, basement, a deck, a special project. I want you to contact my friends, Ed and Roxanne at Arch Design Builders. Do a custom build, customer service, their experience, 5-star builder. Let's dream together. Set up the meeting, show them the space, and let them do their thing. Arch Design and Builders. Call Roxanne. You can use my name. She is fantastic. They're the best. 401-218-9707. Arch Design Builders. Have you been thinking maybe it's time? New kitchen, new bathroom, maybe a special project in the house. Maybe you'd like to redo a bedroom. Maybe you'd like to open up your house or, close in more rooms. Arch Design Builders. 401-207-4124. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, admittedly, it's just heartbreaking listening to these families. It is. And what they have gone through. So for those that maybe for whatever reason didn't follow it, I thought the judge was very powerful when the judge even mentioned, this happened in November. All of November, December, till they arrested him. Online media, specifically TikTok, was filled with online sleuths pointing the finger at the wrong people. There was a former boyfriend. Do you understand? These people were identified. People did TikTok videos pointing the finger at who they thought should be a suspect with this. And it was this, psychopath lunatic the entire time, who basically, he thought, as she, Alvia mentions, thought that he could pull off the perfect crime, thought he could pull off and it's excruciating to even think about that he could pull this off. Another one, Steve Gonzalez, the father of Kaylee Gonzalez, he called him a joke. The father got up and there's a lectern there and it was facing forward. He turned it to look directly at Kohberger.
We knew from the very beginning we had you. Police officers tell us within minutes they had your DNA, like a calling card. You were that careless, that foolish, that stupid. Master degree, you're a joke, a complete joke. Everything what these people meant to us, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, we shared that with our community. Then we shared it with our state. We shared it with the country. And eventually we shared it with the world. The world's watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. You're not worth the time, the effort to be remembered. In time, you will be nothing but 2 initials forgotten to the wind. No visitors, nothing more than initials on an otherwise unmarked tombstone.
Wow.
From this moment, we've all started From this moment, we will forget you. We want to all leave in closing. One last thing. You picked the wrong family, and we're laughing at you on your trip to the pen. I will be today or tomorrow.
You know, folks, again, it's unimaginable to think that the families have to get up there. But these witness impact statements and what they have done and what they have put people through and put those people through, I've sat through. They're very, very difficult. They're exhausting for the individuals that are involved. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure for those of us that are on social media, you're going to see a lot of them over the next several days. It is frightening that there are people like that out there, that he, in essence, wanted to see what it was like and if he could pull off a crime of this nature. Nothing gained, like just a complete waste. And there are things like that. There are people like that, is what I mean, who it just, to me, it brings everything, it makes things very, to me, very simplified. And think of that. This wasn't, he didn't know. Oh, I do understand and agree, because I had felt the same way. He's not going to say anything that's going to make sense. He's not going to, much like other people that have committed this type of gruesome act. There's no logic behind it. There's nothing that's going to ever, there's no reason for it. There's nothing that's going to make sense. But I think it does make it that much odder that without emotion, he just sits there in that way. That's why, as I started to say, you know, this is a time the country could go in one of two ways. I mean, if you don't have security, if you're trying to drive police out, if you're trying to make life difficult for law enforcement, and there are people like that, I do not support that. That's not the direction we want to go. Look right now, just for example, in Rhode Island, how, you know, the big push for this low-income housing everywhere. We got to spread it around. We want to get the gang members everywhere. What is the point of that? Why do you think a lot of people move out? Why do you think people moved out of Providence? Why do you think people moved out of Pawtucket? Why do you think they moved out of Central Falls? What on earth would lead you to believe that the people that moved out of those areas want the people from those areas now living around them? There's a reason they left there. Folks, this portion of our program, if you've been thinking of getting your driveway paved, call J. Perry Paving today. Free estimate, 401-732-1730. Now, if you're a veteran, they have a special package for veterans. J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, licensed and insured, exceptional service. J. Perry Paving. If your dad is a veteran, or your mom, or your son or daughter, or your grandmother, or your grandfather, J. Perry Paving. Call them, 401-732-1730. You know what improves the value of the home is a brand new paved driveway. Call them today, 401-732-1730. Letter J, J. Perry Paving. They're also very, very active on social media. Well, folks, again, good afternoon. It's tough to, so I was supposed to be on Newsmax earlier, and then when they were carrying it, I thought, well, you know, this is not going to work out. I'm not going to then go on. They wanted to ask me about Colbert. I will be, we're going to be doing Road Patrol Live later. I am also going to write a piece on DePietro.com, because Dan McGowan of the Boston Globe, we have him on. I usually talk to him on Thursdays. He has a piece today saying that Governor McKee and the leadership, and they should go all in on trying to lure this WNBA team that apparently is going to leave Connecticut and really try to get into the mix. I'll write about it because it's not just a quick reaction, but folks, one of the people that he mentions is Alan Hassenfeld. Alan Hassenfeld recently passed away. I knew Alan. His family started Hasbro, but and when we talk to Dan McGowan tomorrow, one of the things that I want to mention is, don't you understand, our area of the country, a Hasbro, an Allen Hassenfeld, they wouldn't move to an area like this anymore. Just, Rhode Island and Mass have their challenges, but Rhode Island, Governor McKee, he's done everything possible to chase away private industry. If you're a successful company or you're starting a company, you're not going to be in this part of the Northeast. Where do those companies go? They go to Texas, they go to Florida, they go to the Carolinas, they go to Ohio, they go to Tennessee, they go to a place like New Hampshire. Wisconsin is seeing huge gains. You're not people going over the line from Illinois. They're not. McKee has chased away all of the private business. You don't have, years ago, you did have a Tom Ryan. You did have a Terry Murray. You did have some local business leaders. Organized labor, McKee, they've chased them all away. The state, they're not gaining professional teams, they're losing them. They chase the Paw Sox away and chase them to Worcester. It's ridiculous. There is, Dan McGowan, again, I respect him. I talk to him once a week. He put, where's Lori White in the Chamber of Commerce? Where is Lori White in the Chamber of Commerce? They're inactive. They're ineffective. They're silent all the time. McKee replaced Terry Murray, Tom Ryan, and Allen Hassenfeld with Pat Crowley, Sabatoni, and George Nee. Don't you understand? He's gone all in with organized labor. The business community, forget about it. Because they would tell me, business leaders would tell me, you start to have success in this area, and the next thing you know, the AFL CIO comes knocking on your door, and they say, oh, hey, thanks for building your company up now. What do you have? 500-600 employees? Great. We're going to unionize it, and we're going to take it over. Your workers will no longer report to you. They're going to report to us. We want a cut of the action. So McKee is trying to chase, he wants to build a training facility for a WNBA team. They don't have the money for that. There's no money for anything like that. The Superman building's been empty since 2008. This is ludicrous. So they want to chase a WNBA team. What they've done is chase away all the private business. Yeah, it would be fantastic. But you want to, Rhode Island should be more like New Hampshire. The problem with Rhode Island, one of the problems, is it's more like the two states that it borders, Connecticut and Massachusetts. Rhode Island should be like New Hampshire between Massachusetts and Connecticut. Not a lot like Connecticut and Massachusetts. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today. We will be active Road Patrol Live later. Make sure you visit our website, depetro.com. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Very, very sad day out of Idaho with those witness impact statements. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news.